H-Bomb is great, but his Dark Souls takes her shit. Nah, you know what? Okay, can I be real with you guys? Okay, I like contrarians. I really do. Because so many of you soy chuggers just get your info from the most hegemonically acceptable sources in the universe. Yeah, this is why you hate me, okay? Because I say bold, true takes like Minecraft isn't that good. And you people lose your shit. And you watch the Dark Souls 2 and you're like, oh, this can't be right. I watched the Matosis video. This can't. They said that the too many mob fights. It's not, you have to use the lock on. And like, basically, you're all losers, is what I mean. Just because a take is bold doesn't mean it's right. That's true. But here is a question I have for you, my friends. Is the point of a reviewer to be right, or is it to get you to think in new ways? See, I like review channels when I don't often agree with the people who are making the review, because getting to think differently about a piece of media sometimes is worth more than getting a comprehensive and collectively accepted appraisal of the value of a piece of media. Yes, you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent, and you have to develop a strong logic for it, you know? So I like knowing how people think about stuff. We've all seen the donkey video. Believe it or not, my internet poisoned chatter, videogamedunkey was not the person who invented the idea of hot takes from consistent rational reviewers can be helpful to develop a comprehensive understanding of the media they appreciate. Just so you know. Don't get me wrong, you made a good video, but zero punctuation. Okay, I'm gonna hundo with you guys. I really liked zero punctuation back when I was younger. And I really, really don't like it now. The older I've gotten, the more I've started to feel like 5-minute reviews of games are just like worthless. But basically, like, maybe it's fine if you're talking about some super bland corporate bullshit where you can really run it through in like 2 minutes. But outside of that, I genuinely feel like it's like reactionary reviews, in the sense that like it's just you're not being encouraged to think about it. I don't know. Yeah, it's for the humor and not the actual review. And also, yeah, the problem with Yahtzee is that while I do still think his writing is generally like pretty funny, um, I feel like yeah, like I don't know, the cynicism takes priority sometimes, where it feels like there's good stuff that he has to dunk on because it's like he has to be like the cynical guy. I don't know. Remember when Joseph Anderson talked about Coconut Island? Yeah, I remember. James Stephanie Sterling. I I've never actually watched any of her videos. Not one. Oh, is it
Hey
they? Oh, my
Vosh, I
apologies,
thought
they.
your trans genocide
Um,
take was a
I've yet to
stretch, but
find
the
a
stuff
solid
I'm
review of
seeing is
Amori
giving
that's
me
not
pause.
just an analysis
Your
video.
stream
Well,
is
that's the
teaching me
thing,
about
like,
trans
sometimes
issues.
reviews aren't even an important part. Oh yeah, like, sometimes reviews aren't even the important part of a game. Take a game like Pathologic, by the way. How much is a review really going to sell you on that game? You know, the thing that like, the thing that got me into the first game was that 3-part review on Rock Paper Shotgun, which was fantastic, but it was barely a review. It was like an artsy, pretentious analysis, which was awesome. The archetype of the cynical reviewer really fucked with a lot of reviewers back in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Yeah, I completely agree. This is one of the reasons why I genuinely think like cynicism is like a low IQ trait, you know? A lot of people mistake cynicism for skepticism, and they're two completely different things. Cynicism is like the dumbass's shortcut to like being appreciated as though you're skeptical, but it's not the same thing. Oftentimes, cynical people are actually really unskeptical because they just blindly default to their stupid, stubborn, like, cynicism, no matter what, no matter what's warranted, you know? So it turns into, like, its own dogmatism in a way. Calling out Red Letter Media. I don't watch much Red Letter Media, so I'm genuinely not. I don't know enough about, like, your Ubisoft hate. I am dogmatically hateful towards Ubisoft. That is true. What definition of cynicism are you using here? I don't know, I guess, like, to an extent, uncharitability. When it comes to cynicism that's being done through, like, meme internet game reviews, I think what we're mostly talking about is, like, a desire to poke holes in something more so than to, like, uplift or examine the product in its entirety. You know, I really like what Errant Signal does, because when Errant Signal does reviews, he almost never criticizes the media that he's going after. And I think he points out something that I think is really true that a lot of people forgotten. And it's that media criticism is almost ubiquitous, but very rarely do you see media being championed. And I feel like that's something we kind of like lose out on a little bit, you know what I mean? Like when we like especially with like indie games, like smaller projects where they're not going to get that much attention. If you make some little game, some like little, game that can be finished in 30 minutes or something, I don't know, it's like does that game really need criticism? Actually, I've wondered about this because like man, making video games is super fucking hard, you know? Um, and I feel like, there are people sometimes who will do these reviewing binges of indie games, and you'll have a guy like an indie game developer make a game and work really hard in it, and then someone's like, well, it doesn't have this, doesn't have that, not good, you know? But like, shouldn't we be, when it comes to stuff like that, shouldn't we be looking for the little gems of creativity? You know what I mean? Shouldn't we shouldn't we be putting in a little effort trying to find like that little bit of worthwhile, that unique, like that's something we can learn from it? To put it another way, if a game, an indie game, is made inexpertly, you know, um, and a video is made criticizing the ways in which it's inexpertly constructed, I'm not going to learn anything from that video. I've seen enough video game criticisms. I know what they're going to say. I understand. There's nothing new for me there. But a video that finds the little unique things that are worth celebrating, like maybe a couple of unique ideas that could be developed on better in the future, I can learn from that. So in a way, being critical actually becomes less important in terms of like elevating my mind state than looking for the things to praise. But I think that's unique to some types of games because I would never want anyone to take that attitude towards like a fucking Ubisoft game, you know? Uh, Assassin's Creed gets enough criticism. I'm going to find the pieces of art in here that really make it all stand out. No, fuck you. You will find the fucking game-breaking bugs. You will find the samey copy and paste content. You will find the map they reused from the last game, and you will talk about it. Okay, fuck you. Um, you know, you know what I'm talking about, right? I hope you guys know what I'm talking about. Noah Gervais, the best video essayist in video games. I don't know if he's the best, but I really like him. Yeah. I love how pretentious he is, and I don't mean that like in a like backhanded compliment kind of way. I actually really do. He writes such flowery scripts, and it's like he doesn't even give a shit because he'll like not even edit out him misspeaking. He'll just like continue with the script read, and I actually really really like it. It gives me the impression of like a guy who writes with a feathered quill and who doesn't know how computers work. Do you know what I mean? But like in the best possible way, like in a really really good way. You know what I mean? Like where he'll like descend to his like writing chambers to like produce an 8,000 page script, and then he'll like stack on parchment, and he'll stack it, and he'll start reading it into like a microphone being held up by his wife, and he has no idea what a microphone is. Noah, he's just like reading out loud to his wife, and his wife's just trying to capture it. So when he makes mistakes, it doesn't get edited out. You know what I mean? Like that's the vibe that I get from him, and I fucking love it. I really love it. Yeah, it's authentic is what it feels like. It feels really authentic, Who are we talking about? Noah Gervais. Noah Gervais. Caldwell Gervais. Yeah. Why are there no porn critiques? Because porn is generally not thought of as an art form. Unfortunately. It is for like drawn porn, but not for live action porn. Oh, did he get more popular? Yeah, his videos have been getting like 7-digit views lately. Yeah, no, I really like him. I also really like the fact that he's not especially good at video games. He did a review of the Dark Souls trilogy, a review in which he like is really defensive because he's not good enough to beat a lot of the bosses, which means that he has to like use summons and like cheese tactics and stuff. And in his script, he's like, "Okay, look, you can make fun of me if you want, but I had a good time. Fuck you." He says that basically 400 times. It's really funny. I really respect it. I like it a lot. I was actually watching somebody play Elden Ring for the first time the other day, and like they started using the bow to snipe mobs from a distance, which is so much easier than running up and meleeing all of them one by one. And surprising to me, I wasn't like annoyed. I don't know. It's really difficult to like pin down that stuff, like the desirable difficulty state of a lot of these games. Um, yeah. Are we differentiating reviews from critiques here? Well, I think reviews are commercial in nature. a review of a game should be like an appraisal of its value as a product, or the opposite. Do you like Dunkey's reviews? Yeah, I like Dunkey's reviews. They're really short and they're mostly comedy focused, but I feel like he's not there. I feel like the fact that the comedy is front and center is something that he's pretty straightforward about, and I feel like he tends to fixate on what he finds important. Yeah, I would say that it doesn't corrupt his insight. I've never seen girlfriend reviews. I haven't seen Angry Joe. Um, what is your review of Better Call Saul? I'm 2 seasons behind. What do you think of racing games? Not my type of thing at all. I saw someone's Elden Ring take where the game was bad because he attacked the first NPC after the tutorial, then ran towards the tree sentinel and got caught in a death loop because he was too dumb to know to just not attack the first NPC. You know, to an extent, that might be because that person's retarded, and it might also be, I think, because the From Software games operate on a really different logic than a lot of games, you know? You know how when you're good at one game, you get better at all of them? Like, to an extent, because most video games have a shared logic that is pretty easy to comprehend, and you can sort of understand it in parallel. That doesn't mean you're going to be amazing at shooting if you get really good at, like, I don't know, Final Fantasy or whatever. But, like, there's a logic to video games you can generally, like, rely on. I feel like From Software games don't have that. There was a tweet that I really, really, really liked, which said that, like, Elden Ring feels like a game which was inspired by an entire history of video games that never happened, you know? Like, everything in Elden Ring feels like a really polished version of a series of trends in the medium that didn't happen, you know? Like it got pulled out of an alternate reality where the stuff that you see in From Software games, like completely incomprehensible NPCs, a story you can only understand by pulling through the wiki, a game which is incredibly difficult until your brain clicks into place and suddenly you're like a dancer running through the streets, you know? Like all this stuff. Yeah. It feels like it's all like legitimate and it all works, but it's not like based off stuff the way that a lot of modern gaming trends are. I feel like the pinnacle of the modern game would be like, I don't know, it'd be like a Ubisoft game, right? It would be a game where there's a big open map and a linear story that you can progress at your pace, and there are a bunch of enemy encampments that you can liberate by attacking, and there are upgrade materials to upgrade your shit, and there's some limited degree of RPG customization, but for the most part everyone plays about the same. And the story is like pretty immediately understandable and not particularly nuanced, but there are lore bits that you can discover by running around, and like towers to unlock map pieces, and like little collectible things around the side, and blah blah, like, and all that's like modern game, you know? That's a modern game. And you people are like, oh well, you mean like this game? No, I mean like every game, you know? That's the whole point, right? I mean like every game. There's so many games that are like that. um and in a lot of ways, like Elden Ring, I mean, Elden Ring does a lot of this stuff, basically, right? But it just does it different. It does it, I don't know, better, in my opinion. Yeah, so, well, I mean, people like Elden Ring, clearly, you know. That's not necessarily bad, though. No, see, the thing is, like, when done well, I don't think these tropes are bad. Elden Ring does a lot of that stuff, literally. A main story progression line, though admittedly less comprehensible than most games, you know, map pieces that you find running around, dungeons that you can, like, review or limit, you know. I would really, really love to see a game. You know how Halo Infinite was like open world? I really want to see a game that's like an open world first person shooter, except it has 90s style video game shooter mechanics. Like Duke Nukem or Doom or the modern Doom games, you know what I mean? Or like Dusk. The idea of like imagine a giant lo-fi open world, and it could be massive if you manage to, like, if you go for lo-fi graphics, you know, like PS1 era shit, like colossal. Um where there are like, you have like the exploration, the mechanics and everything like that. Actually, that exists. Let me finish, okay? Okay, imagine Dusk, all right? So you run at like 30 miles an hour, okay? And all of the areas that you can fight in are kind of designed around you being able to encounter them from any angle, but they turn into the standard like arena set pieces when you encounter them, right? So it's not like in modern games where you can just ignore an encampment by sniping everyone from a distance the way you can in all these fucking games, right? Like, you have to engage with it. And enemies are fast and they'll fly and they'll chase after you. So you can't just like, you have to fucking fight. Stop, please. When I'm saying something, please stop saying a game that it reminds you of. I'm begging you guys. It takes the wind out from under my sails so much. I don't care and you're always wrong. You're wrong every time. Oftentimes I've played the game that you're referring to and it's nothing like what I've said. Please, please, please. Please. I'm begging you. I'm on my hands and knees here. Please. Um, anyway, that you could like zip around in. One thing that I've really, really like thought would be cool to explore that I feel like some people might find annoying, but I think would actually be really, really fucking good is Breath of the Wild style degradable weapons, except in a first person shooter setting, you know? The idea of like you're like running around and like there's some rusted like twin barrel shotgun that has maybe like 8 shots in it before it degrades. No. But it would have to be built around that. So imagine it's like hyper mobile. You only have the weapons that are in your hands at the moment. The problem with Breath of the Wild is that like you're storing like 20 weapons at a time and you're just using the shitty one to keep the good one, but you can't do that if there's no storage. That's the thing that's key. People are always going to save the best for what they think will be last. This is why everyone saves their revive potions in RPG games and never uses them, because they're always like, oh yeah, dude, like, for the final boss, but they just never use them, you know? But if you can't store anything, everything becomes like a brawl, where like if you want a gun, like you have to disarm some dude and take the gun from him. And if there's a really good gun, you only get that shit for like 30 seconds. And that means the permanent upgrades would be like the really good stuff, right? Like maybe you can't keep a gun forever, but you can jump faster, jump higher, jump farther, have more armor, have more health, have better health regen. And all that stuff becomes more valuable because the guns are temporal. It also forces you to... This is one of the things that I really, really miss about the original Doom game. It's that in the original Doom levels, the ammo that you get for a weapon is determined by the level, meaning that some levels you can only use some weapons. So there will be some levels in Doom where you only get shotgun ammo in the map, and that means you have to use the shotgun there. But in Doom Eternal, all ammo comes out of any enemy that you chainsaw, meaning you always have the weapon that you prefer. And the problem with that is that sometimes you can create really unique gameplay moments if you're limited to some weapon uses. Like, forcing you to use shotguns when you're fighting against long-range flying enemies means that it's like, fuck, right? Like, oh, shit. You're doing, like, chip damage at them, you know? Or, like, forcing you to use, like... Or if there's an area that's very low ammunition, so you have no choice but to, like, take careful shots with pistols or what... I don't know. I feel like it could be really good. You know what I mean? I feel like the problem with degradable weapons isn't the degradable weapons, it's that you want to make it as satisfying and moment-based as possible, where it's not just like, oh, my inventory can carry 18 weapons, and I have 18, so let me find the twig in my inventory and set it down so I can pick up this sword that will last 13 hits when and you know, it's like, Shimon, I feel like it could be a lot less tedious if you were just fast-moving. Has anyone played I Divine Cybermancy? Oh, speaking of, if you want good game reviews, Mandalore Gaming is one of the top ones. So a walking simulator? Yes. This sounds like Gex. Yeah, true. I haven't played Far Cry 2, so I can't say Rainbow Dash. Sorry. You watch the worst reviewers? Mandalore Gaming? Who doesn't like Mandalore Gaming?